Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today we're going to be talking about Zur the Enchanter and the shenanigans that ensues when you can play enchantments for the free. Well, obviously we don't have a whole lot of time, but I can't really go over every card. So let's go over the enchantments. We obviously know things like Enlightened Tutor and Idyllic Tutor and all of that jazz. So let's go over some of the enchantments that I think. Well, first off, let's look at protecting our guy. Protecting Zur is of the utmost importance, and we gotta do that. One of the first cards that I grab when his ability triggers is you have to attack with him in order to be able to do that. So you want him to not die. And him being a 1/4, there's a lot of things that just outright kill him. So if you give him protection from creatures, obviously there's two different versions of this. You give him protection from creatures, he can't be blocked. So he's guaranteed to. And it also helps later on, once you have built him up big enough, to start one-shotting people. Of course, by then you've gotten one or two commander damage in there. So these are generally the first picks that I grab to keep his ability turned on, so that you can still keep swinging and him not getting blocked and killed. Now, another thing that I really like is if the others are. This is as much of a political pawn as it is a win condition. You can dole out shadow however you deem fit. You can use it to influence blocking amongst other players, other people's attack step, even when it doesn't involve you. You can make your general nigh unblockable. It's a really good political card. Obviously, we're going to have ways to pump your guy up now. I'm running way more enchantments in this deck than just about probably any other deck I have. Some of them are just outright win conditions. Some of them are because, let's face it, I'm running enchantments. So we might as well play with some 4/4 angels. Go over here. I love Teferi's Care. Not a lot of people play with this card. The ability to sack an enchantment, to destroy an enchantment, there's a lot of stuff that can potentially hose you. And then the just straight up 5 mana counter an enchantment spell. I really like that. We have our fair share of hate. Now, I'm not running any artifacts whatsoever because I wanted to focus around enchantments. So that's why I'm running a lot of these. We have our graveyard hate. We have our general hate. You just name their general if you know that that's their win con. And then these two are real close to the same card. The Hissing Miasma and the Orim's Prayer. It kind of protects you against those big Storm Herd type, big weenie guys. Now, this is a double-edged sword here because once you play this on it, you can no longer cast on it. His ability will work, but you can't cast them from your hand, and you have so many here that you're going to need to cast. So before you do this, make sure it's game on board. Obviously, again, Sphere of Safety, we have a ton of enchantments now. This can make it to where they just cannot attack you. Now, Detention Sphere, this card's too good not to play. I mean, we all know that. Engineered Plague. we're going through a little bit of the removal right now. Obviously, everybody knows about the Oblivion Ring, the Pillory, Pacifism, Recumbent Bliss. Let's look at this guy. Not a lot of people play with this. We can actually recover, since most of the deck is 3 mana enchantments or less. We can recover just about quicker than anyone else. And of course, you'll see it coming, so you can sandbag your lands. It does tend to make you a target, though. Now, I really like this Grasp of Fate. You get to O-ring a permanent from each player, so that's really neat. Obviously, Imprison the Moon. Here again, let's talk about Infect. Your guy's going to get so big that you will be able to one-shot people. It just happens. So, that's a thing. Prison term. Now, all of these are what I would call typical ones that you're going to look up. But let's look at some of the more atypical ones. And when I say this, I know I'm going to draw a lot of hate. That's right. Those are circles. Circles of protection. Oh, I'm too close to the damn camera. I've got one for each color, and then I have the story circle, to where you name the color. But the circles of protection, now these have not been printed in a long time, so I'll explain them to you. 2 mana, and then for any color, you can prevent a damage from a color of that source. Now, I have all 5, one for each color. They do make an artifact one, and a land one, and a shadow one. I did not feel that those 3 were... Now, maybe the artifact one should be running, but it's artifacts and not just colorless. If they ever make a Circle of Protection colorless, then, hey, with the Eldrazi that are running rampant, that could be really cool. Artifacts, yeah, you do get protection from a lot of things, and nowadays it's like a multicolor one. There's also a Greater Realm of Preservation that kind of acts like... But anyway, these are pretty neat. These were the... back when I started playing, these were the way that the lesser experienced player could deal with the more experienced player. Because we tend not to have as much enchantment removal as we did just big fatty dudes or, channel fireballs or whatever. But run the circles of protection, because let's face it, you don't have a lot in the way of blocking. I mean, we've got some our fair share of board wipes, don't get me wrong, but the circles are, I believe, in this deck, because of the ability to go fish out the one you need from his ability, is probably the... I think this may be the only deck I run Circles of Protection in. And it's some of those cards that once you play, people never, ever see them coming. And you'd be surprised how a Circle of Protection can just shut down somebody's deck, because it's... I mean, I can't remember the last time I've seen one played that wasn't me in EDH. Well, I do believe that is what I have got. I mean, all of these are pretty much typical. Now, Follow Footsteps does not follow the 3 mana rule, but it is... I really, really love it, because people do play with Eldrazi. And I can enchant their Eldrazi, and I can get a copy of it every turn. Or the Tutor Demon. Or, I mean, there's a whole bunch of really good cards. The good thing about EDH is it's the who's who of powerful creatures. And generally, by the time you can cast Followed Footsteps, you have a really, really good choice of creatures to do. Now, Gossamer Chains. Any deck that you thrive on casting enchantments, Gossamer Chains, because you can just return it. all willy-nilly like. I mean, it's you return it to make your dude unblockable, and then cast it again to get your makes an Enchantress trigger or your Sigil of the Empty Throne trigger. It's kind of good, kind of good. Or we like First Strike, 3-mana enchantment. Seems good. But that's what I've got for Mr. Zur. He does typically tend to draw a little bit of hate at a table because most people know when you play Zur, you're in it for the general damage. Well, I do appreciate you watching. Hope y'all didn't eat too much for Christmas. I know I did. But let me know what you're looking for in the bottom, and we appreciate y'all watching. But right now, it is time to shuffle and cut.